Within Key House, the tapping of tiny footsteps shifts from the stone floor to a wooden panel before coming to an immediate halt. "I'll kill you!" a voice booms from down the hall. Then, nothing. Nothing but stifled panting. "Stop running! You're only making it worse on yourself." Two shadows, like claws, crawl out of the doorway.
"I'm not giving you your hat until I get the head key back."
The boy scrambles from his cover and tries to hide underneath a rug in the hallway. "Keep it up. I'll open your head the old-fashioned way, via skull fracture." Tyler Locke emerges from the doorway. "I don't even got the friggin' thing. Kinsey has it. Why can't you piss her off?"
"I don't know how,"
barks back the voice from beneath the rug.
"She's always calm. She's like a pod person. I can't stand it."
"Yeah, she's making me nuts too. Look, come out of there, kid, and I promise you won't be hurt beyond what you got coming to you." Tyler snatches up the rug. "Nowhere left to go, is there, you little turd?" However, to both Tyler and Bodhi's surprise, they find there is an interesting shape carved into the floorboards. One larger than any they have ever seen before.
"Do you think it does anything?"
Bodhi asks.
"Do you think we could take it out of the floor?"
"What? No way, kid. I mean, even if you could pry it up, it's not like there's a lock somewhere that's..." Tyler is caught off guard as he looks up and sees the window that has been sitting next to the TV all along. He also now realizes that the window is, in fact, the shape of a keyhole, and it bears a remarkably similar engraving to the one at the head of the key hidden in the floorboard. No. I mean, just, no way." He stands to his feet and forces Bodhi out of the room. "Jesus, kid, you gotta stop finding, keys and stuff."
"I don't find them. They find me,"
Bodhi responds. Outside, Detective Mutuku examines the steps near the black door at the back of the property, the place where Sam Lesser died. "It wasn't murder," Nina says as she slowly approaches using the assistance of her cane. "Of course it wasn't. Even if your son had broken Sam Lesser's neck, he didn't. It would be an obvious case of self-defense." "But it wasn't self-defense because Sam broke his neck falling down these stairs trying to get away." "I didn't come here to collect evidence for a case against your son," the detective says. "You called me, remember? I apologize if it looks like I'm snooping. You didn't answer the door. I thought you might be in the backyard. After what you and your family have been through, I'd be surprised if you weren't on edge. Especially after the incident in Cape Cod Friday night." Nina escorts the detective into the kitchen and grabs her half-finished drink from on top of the counter. "Interest you in a Bloody Mary?" She smirks. No. I don't drink while I'm theoretically at work. I wouldn't turn down a cup of coffee, however." "See? That's perfect. I made a pot out of habit this morning, but I couldn't drink any. I can't handle the caffeine like I used to, apparently. Makes me jumpy. I'm already too jumpy as it is. I kept waking up the other night thinking there was someone breaking into the house. I can at least ease your mind on one matter. What happened to Brian Rogan was tragic and a crime, but is not connected in any way to what Sam Lesser did to your family. The woman who ran him down was drunk and had already exchanged ugly words with Mr. Rogan in a bar earlier that night. It isn't my area, but I understand tensions have been high on the Cape in the wake of the recent gay marriage rulings. Alright. After what Duncan told me, I didn't think there was any chance, but he's very distraught. I figured I'd better get a second opinion. I understand. I'm glad to be your sounding board, Mrs. Locke. Are you? Is there something more? Nina walks over to a nearby drawer and pulls out a plastic Ziploc bag with a key inside. She tells Detective Mutuku she remembers Sam was fixated on keys, and she found this one in the same parlor Sam died in, and it matches the same description of the key Sam was looking for. The detective examines the key. How curious. Sam Lesser had homemade tattoos showing keys of different sorts. I wonder if this matches any of them. I could compare to the photo record. Not that it matters, but it's interesting. Thanks for listening to my crazy talk. Mrs. Locke, last year, a deranged man assaulted me with a death ray made out of a toilet plunger and tinfoil. I grew up in a nation where children carry machine guns. My mother enrolled me in fencing classes after she had a dream that someday I would need to defend myself with a sword. I wouldn't know crazy if it bit me in the face. After their conversation ends, Nina escorts Detective Mutuku to his car and prepares to drive off herself. Tyler asks what the two were speaking about, but his mother just waves it off as procedural stuff. She moves the conversation forward, stating if she is able to catch the last ferry, she should be back by 11 that night. So that means Tyler is responsible for Bodhi. No girls, no keg. Don't worry about it, Tyler huffs. I'll probably just roll a joint and doze off in front of the tube. Hardy fucking har. I come back and find this house in ruins. I won't be stringing you up by your neck. Understand? Yup, got it. Tell Duncan to hang in there. Tell him we love him, and tell him we're thinking about him and Brian. Before she leaves to visit Duncan in Provincetown, Nina notices that she has forgotten her cell phone. She sends Kinsey up to her room to grab it for her, but the amount of time it takes for Kinsey to retrieve it becomes concerning. Meanwhile, Kinsey, with Nina's cell phone in hand, continues to search Nina's room for something else. Finished looking through my things? Nina hisses. I was trying to find the charger for you. I've got a travel charger in the car. I think you know that. I turned a blind eye to you tiptoeing into the house the other day after you went for a swim with those boys till almost dark. I can forgive you for being a little wild, but not being a sneak. Kinsey opens a drawer, revealing a number of half-drunk bottles of alcohol. She holds one up. That's funny, Mom. I can forgive you
for being suspicious and mean and angry all the time. After what you went through in Willits, you've earned it.
Nina squints her eyes, and she warns Kinsey.
You don't know anything about it.
Kinsey continues.
But I have a harder time forgiving you for being a shitty, irresponsible drunk. Waking Tyler up in the middle of the night to cry all over him like he isn't dealing with a few things himself. Christ, you've already been drinking. I can smell it on your breath. At least, you're only driving yourself. I can't imagine you taking Bodhi in the car.
At that moment, Tyler shows up. Go for a walk, Kinsey.
Or what? You're gonna drag me out? It's my house too, Tyler. And you can't scare me into...
I know I can't. That's why I'm asking. Please, be done here. Kinsey pouts and walks towards the exit. Nina tells her she doesn't even recognize her anymore.
You got that right. You don't know. You crashed the car driving drunk. I'm not going to cry over it. I'm all cried out these days, and you know what you're doing, in theory.
Christ, will you get out? Tyler asks again. And then, when the two are alone, Tyler tells his mother, Mom, she didn't mean to.
She meant every word.
You know, we've talked about what happened to Dad in Willits, but we never talked about what happened to...
Will you leave me alone, Tyler? I need a second.
Tyler lowers his head before leaving. Nina tries to hide her tears, but it's impossible. So, right before she leaves, she takes one last drink. Later, Scott Kavanaugh and Jamal ride their bikes onto the Key House property. They find Kinsey taking a nap on one of the benches in the courtyard with a comic book covering her face from the sun. Scott tells Kinsey,
Tell your mother a dastardly lie and come away with us. Don't ask questions. We're not going to tell you where we're going anyway. Just come along.
Kinsey lifts the book and smirks.
I can't. Not tonight. Sorry.
Aren't you at least a little curious about our latest death-defying destination?
No, not really. It doesn't matter.
Damn, woman. You're relentless. All right, I'll tell. We're off to Boston to see Muse at the Beacon for a night of personal transcendence through loud, arty English prog rock. You sure you can't nip off with us?
You've got a ride into Boston?
Not yet, Jamal says. Kinsey sits up to offer the two a seat on the bench and notices Jamal has a package he's holding in his hands.
Did you check to see if it's an all-ages show?
Actually, it's 21 and older, Scott admits.
So you've got fake IDs?
No.
So, you've got no ride and no way to get in.
And no money.
Boy, this sounds like a hell of a night.
Your sarcasm never fails to give me a delicious little thrill.
Who's being sarcastic? I wish I could go with you guys. I really do. But I'm on kid duty with Ty. Sorry.
Jamal hands her the package and tells Kinsey not to worry about it. And, for the record, he doesn't honestly think they'll make it. It's just a nice daydream. But 20-1 odds says they don't even get further than the comic shop in downtown Lovecraft. The package, on the other hand, is just a token of gratitude for saving their lives. Something practical. But hot, Scott comments. Be delighted to see you in it, love. Bit revealing, though. Bit kinky. Not the kind of thing I think you'd have the nerve to wear to school. That night, around 8:19 p.m., Tyler is reading a bedtime story for Bodhi. Tonight's pick, Peter Pan. Then, when Bodhi is fast asleep, Tyler returns back downstairs to watch a couple of music videos. Meanwhile, Kinsey is blissfully instant messaging her friend a thank you message. She had opened the present earlier that night and found that it contained a life jacket. She tells her friends it's her new comfort blanket and that she'll probably sleep with it. Jamal comments that it might even save her life one day. Who knows? Nina calls to check in with Tyler from Provincetown. She was at the hospital with Duncan the entire day until she finally convinced him to go home and get some sleep. Unfortunately, she's going to be home later than she thought. She overstayed at Duncan's and missed the last ferry by 10 minutes. So, she's going to have to drive the long way home. She's also going to have someone stop by the house to check up on the kids and to drop something off. Tyler can hear in his mother's voice how tired she is. And she is. So, she agrees to stay the night in Provincetown. And she hangs up the phone. And she takes another sip from her drink. While Tyler is distracted by his mother on the phone and the women on the television, Zach uses the Anywhere key to sneak into Key House. He enters through the kitchen and creeps through the doorway to the basement. Where did you put it, Rendell? He wonders aloud as he looks from left to right. Then, he feels on top of the wooden support beams. No, too obvious. After that, he tries to find a loose piece of flooring. No luck there, either. No loose flooring, no loose stones on the wall, and nothing under the wooden boxes stacked in the corner, or the jars of preserves stacked on top of those. Where did you put it? It's here. You wouldn't have gotten rid of it. The shadows were too useful and you liked them too much. You wouldn't. You wouldn't. I need to have it. Zach continues to lift one jar after another, becoming more and more frustrated as the seconds pass. Where is it? Where? What? Zach grabs the last jar of preserves and holds it up into the air. His hand shakes with anger as he prepares to smash the glass on the floor. But then, he notices what it says on the label. Black Currants Jelly, 1988. Black Currant. Zach reads aloud, noticing the misspelling. There is an E in currants where there should be an A. Black Currants? Rendell, you hopeless dork. You always did like a bad pun. Zach smirks and drops the jar onto the ground, shattering it and revealing a hidden key. This one has extravagant silver and black carvings. The head of the key fashioned into a flame, and the base of the key into a candle wick. Luckily for Zach, there is a small doorway in the basement with a lock and doorknob with a similar engraving of a flame. It helps that the keys always match their locks. Once Zach opens the small door, the key begins to glow. He crawls through the cramped space and is greeted by a stone staircase leading down into the darkness. There are numerous candles scattered throughout the area, all surrounding a lone pedestal in the center of the room. And on top of that pedestal sits an ebony crown with sharp, jagged protrusions. In the front of the crown are two creatures. One is not unlike a hippogriff, the other a dragon. Both of the beasts, guardians of their respective cloaked figures. The cloaked figures, guardians in their own right, each holding onto a ring, which would sit in the center of the wearer's forehead, and within that ring, a placement for a key. Zach scoffs. The dim light from the key in his hand casts his shadow across all corners of the room, creating dark reflections, twisted with a growing glee. Then, Zach places the key in the center of the crown, and the light turns off. And, as he lifts the crown and places it on top of his head, the shadows around the room begin to protrude from the walls, growing dripping snouts and gnashing teeth. They growl and wrestle from left to right, attempting to free themselves. Zach closes his eyes and takes a deep breath. Hello, darkness, my old friend. More creatures sprawl out from the shadows created by the candles. Ferocious beasts, giant insects, bats and snakes alike, vultures and demons, and the room falls silent. Wake all the shadows in the house. I need you to look everywhere. Find the key to the well house and the key to the black door. Don't worry, I'll be helping you look. But first, I probably ought to slip into something more comfortable. The shadows seep onto Zach, shrouding him in blackness. I think I probably ought to be something a bit more badass. I need a look that'll throw them off. And really, they're expecting Bodhi's dark lady from the well. Now, it's 9:22, and Bodhi is fast asleep. The copy of Peter Pan that Tyler was reading to him is open on the bed. And, suddenly, the shadow from beneath Bodhi slides from under him and sits up in the bed. Silently, it looks over at the open page and gets the idea to transform into something a little more insidious. At 9:23, the shadow slams the book shut, waking Bodhi up. Meanwhile, Kinsey is still instant messaging her friends from earlier. She took off the life jacket a little while ago and set it on her pillow. At 9:23, Jamal tells her and Scott he's got a hot date with his right hand and signs off with their new patented farewell. The words, "Stay dry." All the while, Kenzie's shadow is stretching out from the wall. It transforms itself into something truly terrifying. A large form replica of Kenzie's tangible fear creature, with its hissing tongue, growing claws, and pointed knife. Downstairs, creatures are growing around every corner of the television room Tyler usually sits in. He isn't there, so this gives them ample opportunity to accumulate. They giggle at one another, but no sounds escape their mouths. Soon after, Tyler returns with a freshly bought, half-open pizza box in hand. He grabs a slice out and bites down on it. "The fuck?" he mumbles with his mouth full when he notices the shadowy beasts. Then, a Spartan warrior grows from Tyler's own shadow and taps him on the shoulder. Tyler turns around to look and is instantly met with a backhand from the beast. Tyler responds by sending out a right hook. It makes contact, but does nothing to slow down the attacker. The other shadows then jump into the fight. They wrap him up until Tyler is fully consumed by the darkness, and they don't stop hitting him.